Last year. Doing this filming trip with Andre and Pete was really sort of unreal for me. To be with those two guys who I've seen in all the magazines for years and years, and you know, looked up to Andre, you know, in all the trials riding for years and years, and to be sort of back on Skye and having them in my front room and to be riding around, you know, sort of going up in helicopters and just hanging out in general was just like a real crazy time. There's so many sort of pinch myself moments for me to be asked to be on one of those trips, and I don't think they've had other people on the trips before, so to get asked on a trip with those two was really crazy. They certainly sort of made me feel very welcome. You know, like I suppose you go into it maybe thinking, you know, they're sort of so big in the mountain bike scene, and you know, you kind of think, well, no, they've got a right to have an ego or anything like that, but it was nothing like that at all. It was so easy to be out in the middle of nowhere and just kind of back to what you do as a kid, you know, just sort of chilling out around a campfire and telling stories and just like, you know.
We were in the jungle and riding over routes and did this whole trip, like going up in boats and stuff like that. But the whole week you felt really energised, like really. I don't know what it was. It was weird, wasn't it? Like.
What was that rum I bought the first?
Some pretty wild stories, that's for sure, about all sorts of voodoo magic, and definitely can tell Hans has got a bit of a spell on him, I think, so. Quite a surreal time. I think the whiskey made it quite surprising, you know.
Malcolm suddenly says, "See, I told you if you touch those bones you'll die." Hans, straight away, you don't see anything in people's eyes usually.
Yeah.
So the devil.
Dude, like red hot eyes, like fucking looking at me, and it kept going on and on and on. I mean, I'm starting to lose my mind at that point. And we weren't drunk like tonight. We had a few drinks, but and at the end of the night, Eunice told, she didn't say any much all night long, and she was just like there, like being quiet. And then she said, like, Hans, we humans are stronger than spirits, we just have to say it. And right then something clicked and the whole situation changed.
I don't really believe in it, I don't see spirits, I don't see it, but if I hadn't have witnessed that day...
It wasn't like just like
since
him and me.
Since that day I believe in way more shit than sort of fucking fear in people, and like, it was weird, really weird.
What you call it, like what would you call it, a spiritual event.
It's very remote, and if you want to get away from it all, it's the place to go. I mean, you can be on trails here and don't see a person all day long.
For all the places that I've been around the world, I always tell people that drive through sort of Glencoe Pass, and that is one of the most beautiful places I've ever been to. It's got a pretty fond place in my heart, and it's been awesome to come up a little bit further, experience Skye and experience the sort of Torridon area.
We've been riding some absolutely unbelievable trails, you know, some of which I could never actually have believed that we had around these places. It's a really cool spot, you know, out in the middle of nowhere, with a loch, with just, you know, nothing around at all. You know, it's a real special place. Well, these last few days it's been really cool to be, you know, back in my kind of home area, as it were, you know, on the Isle of Skye and also in Torridon. It's been a pretty sort of crazy time for me having Steve, Pete and Andre back here.
It's like the perfect Scotland camp or hideout place. I mean, this beautiful loch here where we're staying at, surrounded just by nature and mountains. I mean, you cannot hear a noise, you cannot see another building anywhere as far as I can look. No cars, except ours. Nice, really nice place. I mean, we have this really cool cabin. We had a fire going last night. We're drying our clothes and getting some breakfast on the way now, and then we're gonna meet the helicopter and check out the goodies. It makes you now realize where the name Highlands comes from, you know. It's really like the Highlands, you know, and it's like the alpine, you know, above the trees in the Alps, you know, when the grass is more yellow and brownish and there is no trees and there's a lot of rock.
The whole time I was on the Isle of Skye, I never explored all the hills that Skye had to offer. So every time I go back, I always try to take a mountain bike with me and ride some trails. But we were riding some, we rode at Sloughin through to Elgol the other day, and yeah, I mean it was nice to be sort of riding trails I'd never ridden. Only like 20 miles from where I grew up. So.
Having Ewan from H&I Adventures, you know, he's like the Highland and Islands mountain bike tour operator here, and he knows a lot of the areas and trails, and they're not always marked. And the cool thing is in Scotland versus a lot of other countries in the world, as for a matter of fact, is you can cycle your bike on any path, and you feel that even whenever you meet people on the trail and walkers and hikers, you know, they're always friendly and they welcome bikers or treat them as people who they share the trails with, you know. They don't feel like they have any better privileges, you know. And Danny, who grew up on Skye, you know, he's seen some stuff on his own island, you know, only 20 kilometers away from where he grew up, you know, where he's never been before, you know.
I've rode with Hans millions of times now. We're both pretty long in the tooth at this game, so yeah, we've rode a lot together, but first time riding with Danny really, and it's always interesting for me to, like, I'm a downhill racer, Danny's more or less a trials rider, street rider sort of thing, Hans, like back in the day, trials rider, so it's always interesting for me to look at other people's skills and see how they transfer them to riding down the trail. It's all in one really. I don't know Danny that well from sort of before this trip, met him a couple of times. Because we were coming to Skye, he grew up on Skye, we got to go to his village where he grew up and he was telling us about kind of really for me how remote it was to what I was used to growing up in. And meeting his mum and dad, really nice people. You can see he's a grounded kid because his parents are really nice, and just yeah, they accepted us into their house, put the kettle on, made us a cup of tea, got the biscuits out, and just felt really, really welcome.
Oh, for
we all
tea.
have teas,
Oh.
it's easy for you. Hello, how
That
you
was on
doing?
the piano, so you can understand it.
I was on the front page of a German newspaper like a few weeks ago.
Yeah, the Welt is huge.
It's like nobody like Tarek just saw it one day. He was walking just going past the paper shop and then so.
You not take milk in their tea. Anybody take black tea?
Well, that's like similar than being in the New York Times for Germany.
It's great, yeah.
And
It's really
yeah.
like
Okay.
So what do you think about all this happening around Danny in the last year?
It's quite exciting. I think.
If not disturbing.
Disturbing.
Disturbing, that's the word to me. It's
Well, I haven't quite got used to it yet, but I had your old gym teacher on the phone the other day. Well, she wasn't phoning the office for you, but
You want some
when
more
I
water
said
in
you
that,
was, she said that she'd had some newspaper on to the school. Unfortunately, she was the one who was speaking to her because it had been your old headmaster. I don't think he would have been so positive. So
You inspired a lot of people around the world, you know, like living every kid's dream. So
it's very exciting. So, do you take sugar?
No, that's as simple as it
Now,
is.
if you need more water than that, I think I maybe put in too many tea bags. So. Now, who doesn't take sugar?
No sugar for me. Dangerous.
Thank you very much.
Great. Top class.
Was it last year at Fort William when it was...
No, last time I won in Fort William for the World Cup was 05.
Was it?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, so, yeah.
Because Peter went down to see Daniel at Fort William last year and lasted 5 minutes. He couldn't watch it anymore. I came back and said, well, how was it then? And he watched it for 5 minutes, you know.
Couldn't take us, you'd fall, have a spill. I was went had a cup of coffee and then came back and joined in the crowd. Well, it was such mania, people were shouting his name and everything else like that. They were shouting and the racket was just, they had the horns and... It was like a Messiah had arrived or something like that. They were going absolutely, the were going absolutely crazy, you know, and it's Dan. And I thought to myself, good God, I said, if he falls off this in front of all these people, he performed beautifully, everything went beautifully well. But I saw it again on television when I got a few weeks later, a couple of months later, it was on, what he did was on television, so I made up for it anyway. I saw it, I was able to watch it from the armchair and it's recorded, so.
long time ago I did a trial show in Germany, and at the end of the show we started to lay down volunteers to jump over, and we added, and it was at my beginnings, like we're talking like late 70s, early 80s. We lay down 2 people, 3, and we bunny hop over 4, and then 5, and then we were like going to get one more, and my grandmother ran out with her cane and was like, that's it, no more, you know. And she stopped the show right there, you know. So that was pretty funny.
How does it feel having these boys in the house like Danny?
I do not know what is going on. It's pretty amazing. If I could have told the 13-year-old me that Hans Ray and Steve Peat would have been in my house, you know, it's pretty crazy. Hey, mate.
So what's the story about Angus?
Well, he was the tallest Scotsman ever and the tallest through giant in the world, according to Guinness Book of Records. He was described as being non-pathological, meant that he was sound in mind and body. He was just a very, very large man. When he was 20, he joined the circus, and he stayed there for about 4 years to learn his craft or to learn the trade. And then he went on to have his own travelling shows and became very wealthy, became very, very famous. But a few years before he died, he was in New York, and after one of his shows he went out to the quayside of the pier. He was challenged by some sailors to lift an anchor which weighed over a ton, and he successfully lifted the anchor, but when he was removing the anchor from his shoulder, the fluke of the bar caught in his back and it damaged him, so he had to retire into business. So that that incident made him world famous beyond all doubt, and to this day is a benchmark. And sometimes it reminds me of Daniel becoming so famous that one of these days he's going to do himself a permanent injury or something like that. That he'll be famous in what he's done, but at the same time that'll be damaged. So I think there's a a comparison to be drawn.
Yeah, Angus was definitely the YouTube sensation from like 150 years ago. Huh?
Very much so, very much so.
Yeah. Well, it's in the blood.
It's
A surreal moment having Hans Ray and Steve Peat come into somewhere that I've been riding, you know, since I was about 8 years old, and I probably watched tricks and stunts before I come and ride here. So it's get some lessons today. Yeah.
It's very special for me too to come here and getting schooled by this young punk. Lay down on the ground real quick.
Yeah. Hey, man, why?
Petey! Look, it's a trick you can do too. Yeah, watch. Put your legs together. Just follow me, Petey. I never did this before. Just don't move. And oh! Right then, Petey. It's not that hard. Point to the right. Yeah!
That's scary with suspension forks, like.
No, don't worry, I got a helmet on.
We've seen the size of my nose. Like.
Oh god, I gotta come back.
He's stuck. Look at that dial. Don't catch it from here.
Thanks, Danny. Keep it up, buddy.
Dial.
Did he have a drink?
Hans comes across on some of his older videos, like pretty full on, but on his, you know, old slices up to the job. He's just like completely chilled. There's not, you know, nothing. There's been at no point in this trip has it felt like I've been actually, you know, doing like media stuff or anything. Like, it's been just chilled. It's like we've just been out with friends from here.
Crash.
Oh man, that was close. That was so fucking close.
That gear was a bit hard for it, I reckon. not even... Mike Slice won't even do it. Watch, Mike Slice won't pull it.
Mike Slice.
What?
You gotta fucking pedal that thing hard.
You check the sight. That was a true Mike Slicer.
But yeah, and same with Pete. Like, hanging out with, you know, yeah, I don't know. You know, he's kind of the kind of person that is allowed to have an ego. You know, considering what he's done, you know, for all his life, but he's on the exact same wavelength. You know, like he's into blowing stuff up with the fires and alcohol, and sometimes we enjoy riding bikes as well, and it's completely, you know, it's been nuts. So.
I did that trick 40 years ago.
Home slice and old slice, they can flip and slice it up.
So it's all right, boys. Danny bollocks, it's me. Remember, right? Look at this! Look! Can you do this? Nah, the thing's... Oh, fuck!